My daughter abandoned her autistic son 11 years ago, and I raised him by myself. When he turned 16, he built an app worth $3.2 million. Then she showed up with a lawyer, claiming his money. I panicked when our lawyer said, "We might lose." But my grandson calmly whispered, "Just let her talk." "Okay, gather around, because I need to tell you about something that still makes my blood run cold, even after all these years." Can you even imagine seeing your own daughter walk away, leaving her 5-year-old son, then showing up 11 years later, not with an apology, but with a lawyer and forged documents trying to steal everything he'd ever worked for? It felt like the ultimate betrayal, a punch to the gut I never saw coming. My name is Vivian, and I'm 68. This is my story, a journey I never expected to take. It was November 2010, a crisp Friday. Rachel, my daughter, pulled up to my door with Ethan, my grandson. He was 5 then and clutching one small backpack. "Just for the weekend, Mom," she said, practically pushing him forward. "I just need a break, please." Ethan stood beside her, rocking, tiny hands clamped over his ears, even though everything was quiet. Rachel was already turning away, rushing back to her car. No hug, no kiss for Ethan. Just gone. I watched her taillights vanish down the street, and Ethan just kept rocking. I'd taught elementary school for 35 years, even had a few autistic students. But standing there with my grandson, with his little backpack that was far too light, I realized I knew nothing. Not about truly living with it. "Hey, Ethan," I whispered, "want to come inside?" He didn't look up, didn't move. Just rocked. I opened the door wider, waited. Eventually, he walked past me, hands still over his ears. The hum of the refrigerator, the click of the heater, each sound made him flinch. He crouched in a corner of the living room. "Hungry?" I asked. "Nothing." "Thirsty?" He rocked faster. I brought him his yellow plastic cup, the one I kept for his rare visits, and set it on the floor. He stopped rocking, looked at it, then started again. That first night was a nightmare. Rachel had once told me he ate chicken nuggets, but he turned from the plate. "Pasta?" "No." "Sandwich?" He pushed it away. He'd only eat 3 crackers. "Bedtime?" He screamed when I tried to brush his teeth, like I was hurting him. I backed away, shaking. He didn't sleep. I could hear that low hum all night. Neither did I. Saturday morning, I called Rachel. No answer. Left a message. Called again. Nothing. 1 week turned into 2. I took Ethan to the pediatrician. "He's autistic, Mrs. Cooper. Has anyone talked to you about getting him evaluated?" His mother was supposed to handle that. The doctor just nodded. "Well, you're handling it now." So I did. I enrolled him in speech, occupational, and behavioral therapy. I learned he needed scrambled eggs and toast, cut corner to corner, nothing touching on the plate, every single morning. I learned the route to therapy had to be exact, or he'd scream in the car. I learned not to touch him unless he initiated it. I got good at watching, at listening. 2 weeks after he arrived, I found him at dawn, lining up toy cars. Not randomly, but by color, in a gradient so subtle I had to squint to see the difference. Red, then slightly more orange, then even more orange, then yellow-green. Perfect. "That's amazing, Ethan," I said. He didn't look at me, but he kept arranging. December came, and Rachel still hadn't called. I changed my approach. I stopped pushing him to look at me to talk. I made his world consistent. Same breakfast, same time, same shows, same bedtime routine, just me saying goodnight from the doorway. He calmed. Not happy, maybe, but less frantic. He'd sit with me while I read. He'd eat meals without pushing the plate away. Then, on Christmas Eve, as I was baking sugar cookies, the phone rang. It was Rachel. My heart leaped. "Mom," her voice was flat, tired. "Rachel, thank God. When are you coming to get him? He needs you." Silence. "Then I can't do this anymore, Mom." My world stopped. "What?" "He's yours." I tried, but I just can't. Her voice cracked. "Rachel, wait." The line went dead. I called back. It rang and rang. Nothing. I stood there in the kitchen, the cookies burning, smoke curling up. I turned off the oven, pulled out the black cookies, and just sat on the floor, back against the cabinet. Ethan appeared in the doorway. He looked at me, really looked at me, longer than ever before. Then he walked to the counter, picked up his yellow cup, and brought it to me. He set it on the floor beside me. I looked at the cup, then at him. He went back to the living room. I just cried. On the kitchen floor, with burnt cookies and that yellow plastic cup. The years blurred. I kept everything the same for Ethan. Consistent, predictable. And he was okay. When he turned 6, he became obsessed with magnetic letters, arranging them into patterns on the fridge that I couldn't decipher. Then came the dollar store notebooks, filled with symbols, circles, lines, tick marks. He's tracking his world, his therapist, Dr. Lin, explained. It helps him feel secure. Let him do it. So I did. Notebook after notebook filled. By 7, the symbols became letters, then short words. Egg, toast, school. Simple, but neat. At 8, full sentences. He'd write what he ate, where we went. He started making eye contact sometimes, fleeting glances. He learned to tolerate the grocery store if we went at the exact same time each week. He learned that I wasn't going to leave. I wasn't going to change things without warning. Then, one spring morning when he was 8, I was making breakfast. Eggs, toast, same as always. He sat at the table, writing in his notebook. Why did Mom leave? I nearly dropped the spatula. 3 years of mostly silence, then single words, and now this. A full sentence. A question. I sat across from him. She said she couldn't handle it. He nodded once, wrote something, then stared at the page. I finished breakfast, put his plate in front of him, then went to the bathroom and cried where he couldn't hear me. He'd asked the question I didn't know how to answer. But I told him the truth. That's all I had. The truth. And eggs, and toast, and the yellow cup. It had to be enough. A year later, the school called. September 2014. Ethan was 9, starting 4th grade. I thought we were past the hardest parts. He was talking in full sentences, eating in the cafeteria, even raising his hand. Progress. But Principal Andrews wanted to move him. He'd be better served in our special needs classroom, he said, citing behavior. He wouldn't make eye contact, covered his ears during music. He has sensory issues. I snapped. We have a program designed for children like Ethan. He meant, less stressful for the teacher. I want an IEP meeting, I stated. I spent 3 days preparing. Every report card, every therapy note, every document I'd kept in folders. Ethan's reading was above grade level. Math, 2 years ahead. Handwriting, perfect. The problem wasn't his ability. It was how he learned. The meeting was bright fluorescent. Principal Andrews, Mrs. Brennan, the school psychologist, special education coordinator, all with their neat folders. I had one. A very thick one. Mrs. Brennan, soft-voiced and sympathetic, said Ethan struggled socially, refused to participate. Does he do the work? I asked. She hesitated. Yes, but education isn't just about worksheets. The special ed coordinator suggested a smaller setting. Students who can't keep up academically, I shot back. That's not Ethan. Principal Andrews used that patronizing voice I knew from my own classroom days. We understand you want Ethan mainstreamed, but we have to consider all students. You're saying he's disruptive? I challenged. Not disruptive, exactly. Then what's the problem? Miss Pierce opened her folder. Significant delays in social skills. IQ testing inconclusive because he refused time sections. She finished triumphantly. Ethan needs support we can't provide. I opened my folder. Pulled out his reading comprehension, 97%, 7th grade level. Math, 100%, 5th grade. I kept pulling papers, stacking them on Principal Andrews' desk. These are therapy notes showing progress in speech, emotional regulation, sensory tolerance. He's come further in 4 years than anyone predicted. Not because he's in a special room with low expectations, but because people believed he could do more. Mrs. Brennan looked uncomfortable. It's not about expectations. Yes, it is. I retorted, my voice rising. You want him somewhere else because he makes you uncomfortable. Because he doesn't perform normal, the way you want normal to look. The room went quiet. Principal Andrews cleared his throat. Mrs. Cooper, under idea. Ethan has the right to the least restrictive environment. That means a mainstream classroom with appropriate supports. Not segregation because he's different. I shouldn't have said segregation, but I was tired of being polite. They hemmed and hawed. Finally, he sighed. We'll draft an IEP with those accommodations. He won't struggle, I said, even though I didn't know that for sure. But giving up wasn't an option. That evening, I spread all the meeting notes across the kitchen table, organizing them into a 3-ring binder. Ethan came in. What are you doing? He asked. His speech was stronger now. Making sure the school can't forget what you can do. He looked at the papers. Can I help? I glanced at him. Sure. We worked for an hour. He studied my system, then pointed to the therapy tab. These should be sorted by date, then by type. Speech separate from occupational, separate from behavioral. He was right. It made perfect sense. Show me, I said. In 10 minutes, he rearranged the entire section, creating a system far more logical and clean than I could have imagined. Pattern, structure, order. It came to him as naturally as breathing. That's really good, Ethan, I said. He nodded, no smile, but I could tell he was pleased. The next year, at 10, his speech therapist suggested a tablet. I bought him one. He mastered it in a day. Within a week, he was scanning every page of his notebooks, digitizing everything. Why? I asked. So I don't lose it. At parent therapy groups, mothers asked my secret. I don't handle him, I said. I listened to him. I stopped trying to make him someone else. I just tried to understand who he is. Ethan started noticing patterns everywhere. The traffic light on 4th Street is mistimed, he'd say. It stays red 45 seconds longer. At the grocery store, he'd find pricing errors. He was right every time. Once, after a parent-teacher conference, he said, "He doesn't like me." What? No, honey, he was being nice. His face moved wrong. The smile didn't match. When people really smile, the muscles around their eyes contract. His didn't. He was pretending. He was 10 and could read faces better than I could. When he was 11, Mrs. Hong called. Ethan disrupted class. I was teaching long division, and he stood up and corrected me. Was he right? I asked. Pause. That's not the point. That's exactly the point. Was he right? Yes. But then he was helping Mrs. Cooper. He embarrassed me. Another conference. They wanted to label him oppositional defiant. I brought 6 months of Dr. Lin's notes, proving he was direct, factual, not disrespectful. They barely dropped it. That night, at dinner, he asked, "Why do they want me to be different?" I set down my fork. What do you mean? The teachers, the other kids. Everyone wants me to act like I'm not me. I had no good answer. Because they're scared of people who see more than they do, I said finally. He nodded. A few weeks later, he asked for his birth certificate. Then his school enrollment papers, his social security card. Anything with his name. Is this about your mom? I asked. I just want to see everything. Make sure it's all there. I thought he was processing his abandonment, trying to understand his life on paper. I helped him scan everything into his tablet. What are you building? I asked once. A system, he said. So nothing gets lost. I kissed the top of his head. Okay, buddy. Whatever helps. I thought he was coping with his past. I had no idea he was preparing for his future. That future started shaping up the summer Ethan turned 12. I found him at the kitchen table, my old laptop open to lines of gibberish. What are you doing? Learning Python. What's Python? A programming language. I leaned over his shoulder. Variables. Functions. Loops, is this for school? No. I just want to learn it. I left him alone. That's what worked with Ethan. Let him follow his interests. He spent that entire summer coding, while other kids went to baseball camp. His yellow cup sat beside the laptop, often forgotten. By August, he was showing me programs that sorted files, found duplicates, checked modifications. That's impressive, Ethan. He just nodded, kept typing. In September, I used my last savings to buy him a real computer. He'd earned it. The salesman said, "You'll go far." Ethan didn't respond. He just waited. One evening in October, he called me to his room. "I want to show you something." He pulled up a program. "This is the document signature." Like a fingerprint. He altered one word in a text file, ran the program again. The numbers changed. "See? The signature changed. So you can tell if someone edits something." "Yes." "And when? And how many times?" He looked at me, actually made eye contact for a moment. So things stayed true. I thought of all those school meetings, all the administrators who'd changed their stories. "That's brilliant, Ethan." He turned back to his screen. "It's just pattern recognition. Digital instead of physical." As if that wasn't everything. The next year, at 13, he said, "I want to digitize all your binders. The school meeting notes, all of it." "That's a lot of scanning. I want everything in the system." "What system?" "The one I'm building so nothing gets lost or changed." Those binders held years of fights, of proof. "Okay," I said. "But you're doing the scanning." We spent weeks. IEP notes from 2014, therapy assessments from 2012, every paper detailing Ethan's story. He didn't just scan them. He added layers of information. "What are you adding?" "Timestamps, verification codes, hash values." Each document connects to the ones before and after it, like a chain. If someone tries to change one link, the whole chain breaks. "Why would someone change them?" He looked at me. "Why did Principal Andrews try to move me when I was 9? "Fair point." "So this protects the truth," I said. "Yes." I watched him. This kid who'd been nonverbal 7 years ago, who'd screamed at a vacuum cleaner, who couldn't look anyone in the eye, now he was building something powerful. "I'm proud of you," I said. He nodded. Our relationship had changed. We didn't need many words. Just comfortable silence. His yellow cup always by his plate. When he turned 14, he asked if I'd kept anything from when he first came to live with me. Receipts, calendars. Bank statements from 2010 or 2011. Why? I need to know what really happened. Not what people say happened. What actually happened. I led him to the garage, to the boxes I'd never thrown away. Old tax records, utility bills, calendars with my cramped handwriting. "You kept all this?" "I taught elementary school. We keep everything." He pulled out my 2010 calendar, ran his finger down the dates. "Why do you need this?" I asked. "I need to know the timeline," he said. "When things happened. What was real?" My chest tightened. I thought he was processing. The abandonment. The unanswered questions. "We can scan all of it," I said. "Whatever you need." We spent a month scanning grocery receipts, bank statements showing Rachel never sent money, phone bills proving she never called, calendars documenting our ordinary life. I thought he was building a timeline of his childhood. "Why grocery receipts?" I asked once. "They have dates. They show where we were, what we bought. They're evidence." Evidence of what? Of what happened. Of what was real. I didn't push. If this healed him, I'd help. He started staying up later. I'd hear the click of his keyboard. Some nights I'd find him asleep at his desk, monitors glowing. I'd put a blanket over him, make breakfast. He'd wake, come to the kitchen like nothing happened. I was proud of his dedication, his drive to create. I just didn't understand what it was really for. I thought he was healing from the past. I didn't know he was building armor for the future. What he was building turned out to be something people would pay millions for. Ethan was 15 when he finished it. Spring 2020. Pandemic. World locked down. Ethan barely noticed. He'd been in his room with his computers for years. "I want to show you something," he said one afternoon. He pulled up a program. Clean, simple interface. "This is it. The verification system." "What does it do?" "It analyzes documents. Checks if they've been altered. When they were created. Catches forgeries." I watched it run. Numbers, graphs. "So if someone fakes a document, this catches it?" "Yes. The metadata, the digital fingerprints, the patterns. It sees what people can't." "That's incredible, Ethan." He nodded. "I'm going to sell it." "To who?" "Security companies, fraud prevention, anyone who needs to verify documents are real. He said it so matter-of-factly. My 15-year-old was going to sell software. He started reaching out to companies. The first sale came in June. A small security firm bought a license for $20,000. ISTAREDATTHENUMBER. 20,000. ISTER number 20,000. It's less than it should be, he said. But it's a proof of concept. Now I have a client. He was right. Word got out. Other companies wanted demos. Ethan took conference calls from his room, explaining complex concepts with that calm, direct voice. I'd listen from the hallway, amazed. He turned 16 in November 2020. By January 2021, he had 6 more clients and enough money to pay for college twice over. Then the big offers started. Tech companies wanted exclusive rights. Corporate fraud prevention firms wanted licenses for their entire operations. The numbers jumped from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions. I need help, Ethan said in February. I don't know how to evaluate these contracts. I found James Nakamura, a business lawyer. He met us at our kitchen table, spreading out 3 offers. These are all substantial, Ethan. You built something valuable. I want to sell it completely, Ethan said. I don't want to manage licensing or support. James looked surprised. You're sure? Licensing could pay more long-term. There's a non-compete clause in the acquisition, Ethan said. If I sell it, I can't make competing software for 5 years. That's standard. Does that bother you? No. I'm done with this kind of software. I glanced at him. He said it so definitively, like he already knew his next move. He sold it in March for $3.2 million. $3.2 million. I couldn't process it. I'd taught for 35 years and made maybe half that total before taxes. Somehow, the local news heard about it. They wanted to do a story about the local autistic teen who created revolutionary security software. I didn't want them in our house, didn't want them turning Ethan into inspiration porn. But he said yes. A young reporter named Kate came, filmed him at his computer. What made you want to create this? She asked. I tensed. But Ethan answered simply, I wanted to know what was real. People lie. Documents don't, if you know how to read them correctly. The segment aired. Local teen creates revolutionary security software. 2 minutes of dramatic music, Ethan looking brilliant. How do you feel? I asked. Fine. But he wasn't celebrating. He was just waiting. Watching. I'd catch him staring out the window, or holding his yellow cup, not drinking. You okay? I'd ask. Yeah. But he wasn't. Something had shifted. 2 weeks after the news story, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Ethan was in his room. I opened the door and my stomach dropped. My hands went cold. Standing there was a woman in an expensive gray suit, hair perfect. Next to her, a man in a dark suit with a leather briefcase. Hi, Mom. Rachel. She looked older, lines around her mouth, tension in her jaw. But it was her. Ethan, she said, looking past me into the house. I couldn't move. Could barely breathe. Then Ethan appeared behind me in the hallway. He looked at Rachel. His face was completely blank. No surprise, no emotion. He just watched her. The way he'd watched traffic patterns. Analytical. Calculating. Come in, he said. My legs moved without my permission. I stepped back. They walked into my home, Rachel and her lawyer, and I felt sick. We sat at the kitchen table. Mrs. Cooper, we're here to discuss custody and financial guardianship, the lawyer, Stephen Walsh, said, smooth and practiced. My client, Rachel Cooper, has maintained parental rights to Ethan and wishes to resume active custody. Custody. I stammered. He's 16. Precisely, Walsh said. Still a minor. And my client never formally terminated parental rights. She's been co-parenting from a distance, maintaining contact through appropriate channels. That's a lie. My voice shook. She hasn't called in 11 years. Rachel spoke then, soft voice, sad, fake eyes. Mom, I know you've done a wonderful job, but he needs his mother now. Especially with the money and the attention, he needs guidance. Walsh pulled out papers. Official-looking seals, signatures. These show Mrs. Cooper's maintained legal parental rights. She's documented financial support and communication over the years. She's entitled to custody and, given Ethan's minor status, management of his financial assets until he reaches majority. My heart hammered. They looked real. Those are fake. I cried, but I had no proof. Properly notarized and filed, Walsh said calmly. Unless you can prove otherwise. I looked at Ethan. He was watching Rachel, his face still blank. But I saw something in his eyes. Something I couldn't read. Ethan, I whispered, what do we do? He looked at me for 1 second, then back at Rachel. We should get a lawyer. Getting a lawyer was easier than using one. Linda Reyes, a family law attorney, met us 3 days later. I brought every binder I had. Years of school records, therapy notes, medical appointments. My hands shook carrying them to the kitchen table. Ethan sat quietly beside me, watching. Linda spread Rachel's documents across the table. She studied them for an hour. Finally, she looked up. Her face told me everything. These look legitimate, she said carefully. Very professionally done. But they're fake. I insisted. She's lying. She hasn't seen him in 11 years. I believe you. But do you have concrete proof these documents are forged? I pulled out my binders. I have everything. Linda looked through them, nodding. Excellent documentation. It proves you've been the primary caregiver. But, Mrs. Cooper, without hard evidence that her documents are fake, a judge might rule in her favor. Why? Because she never legally terminated parental rights. There's no court record of custody transfer. Schools and doctors accepted you informally, but did you ever file for formal guardianship? The room went cold. I didn't think I needed to. She abandoned him. I know. But legally, without documentation of that abandonment, without her signing away rights, she's still his parent on paper. Linda's voice was gentle but firm. Her lawyer will argue an informal arrangement doesn't override parental rights. I couldn't breathe. So she can just take him? She's not trying to take physical custody. He's 16. Courts rarely force teenagers to move. She's after financial guardianship. Control of his assets until he's 18. $3.2 million. That's what this was about. Can we fight it? I asked. Yes, Linda said. But her case looks strong. Unless we can prove those documents are fraudulent, we'll lose. I looked at Ethan. Still. Hands folded. Face blank. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Ethan, I whispered. Do you understand what's happening? Yes. Are you scared? He thought about it. No. How could he not be scared? I was terrified. Linda explained the deposition's discovery court dates. It would take weeks, months. The whole time, Rachel's claim would hang over us. After Linda left, I sat at the kitchen table and broke down. We're going to lose you, I sobbed. After everything, after 11 years, we're going to lose. Ethan stood up. Didn't say anything. Just walked to his room and closed the door. I wanted him to tell me it would be okay. To show some emotion. But he just left me there. Rachel's deposition started 2 weeks later. She sat in her lawyer's office, perfectly composed, soft gray sweater, maternal. I visited monthly when possible, she said, calm as could be. Sent financial support through money orders. Called regularly. She had dates. Specific months. Dollar amounts. Detailed financial records of support that never happened. My nails dug into my palms. Linda had warned me, stay calm. Don't react. Why are you seeking custody now? Walsh asked. Because Ethan has significant assets that need proper management. And because he's approaching adulthood, I want to be present for this crucial transition. To make up for lost time. She looked at me when she said it, sad, regretful eyes. I wanted to scream. Ethan's deposition was 3 days later. Walsh asked him about his childhood, memories of his mother. Do you remember your mother visiting you? I don't recall specific visits. Phone calls. I'd have to check my records. Financial support? I don't remember receiving money from her. Walsh looked pleased. He thought Ethan's memory was poor. That his autism made him unable to recall Rachel's involvement. He had no idea. Linda asked Ethan questions. Describe your relationship with your grandmother. She takes care of me, cooks meals, helps with school. She's always been there. Do you want to live with her? Yes. Do you want your mother to have control of your finances? No. Short answers. Direct. True. But they felt weak against Rachel's detailed lies. After the deposition, Linda drove us home. He did well, she said. But Mrs. Cooper, I have to be honest. Without evidence proving Rachel's documents are forged, this is going to be difficult. How difficult? I asked. We might lose. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, thinking about losing Ethan. At 3 a.m., I got up. Light under Ethan's door. He was at his computer. 3 monitors glowing. Ethan, it's 3 a.m. He didn't turn around. I know. You need to sleep. Court is tomorrow. I'm almost done. Done with what? I moved closer. Spreadsheets. Dates. Files. My bank statements. Calendar entries. Phone records. Ethan, I said, my voice breaking. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fight this. He stopped typing. Didn't turn around. Just tell the truth tomorrow, he said quietly. That's all you have to do. The truth isn't enough. She has documents. Fake proof, but proof. Tell the truth, he repeated. I wanted to shake him. Make him understand. But he just sat there, calm, focused, like losing me didn't matter. I went back to bed. Didn't sleep. Just lay there, terrified. Ethan stayed at his computer all night. Morning came, whether I wanted it or not. I made breakfast. Neither of us ate. Ethan came out of his room at 7, showered, dressed. He looked older than 16. Tired, but calm. You ready? I asked. Yes. We drove to the courthouse in silence. My hands shook on the wheel. Ethan stared out the window. Linda met us. Remember, stay calm. Let me do the talking. Ethan answered directly, don't volunteer information. He nodded. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Harrison, a woman in her 50s, sat at the bench. Rachel sat at the front table with Walsh. She looked like a concerned mother. We sat at our table. All rise, the bailiff called. Walsh presented his case. Rachel Cooper, devoted mother, consistent involvement despite challenges. Documents, records, regular contact. He laid out the documents, custody papers, co-parenting agreements, financial records. All fake. All convincing. Judge Harrison reviewed them. Then she looked at Rachel. Mrs. Cooper, can you describe your involvement in Ethan's life over the past 11 years? Rachel's voice was steady, warm. I tried to stay connected as much as possible, Your Honor. I visited when I could. Sent money. Called regularly. She gave dates. December 2013, she visited for his birthday. April 2015, $500 for therapy. May 2017, called about school. Lies. All lies. But detailed. Consistent. I never abandoned him. I never stopped being his mother. She said it with such conviction. I wanted to scream. The judge looked thoughtful. Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. Then it was Linda's turn. She presented my binders. Years of school meetings, therapy records, medical appointments. Every piece of evidence that I'd raised Ethan alone. But as she went through them, I saw the judge's expression. Sympathy. But doubt. Miss Reyes, Judge Harrison said. These records show Mrs. Cooper has been the primary caregiver, but I don't see formal guardianship documentation. No court order transferring custody. No legal termination of parental rights. My chest tightened. Your Honor, Linda said carefully. Rachel Cooper abandoned Ethan when he was 5 years old. My client has documentation of that abandonment. But without Miss Rachel Cooper's signature on custody termination papers, without legal documentation, her parental rights remain intact. The judge looked at me, not unkindly. Mrs. Cooper, I understand you've done excellent work raising your grandson. But legally, without proof that his mother abandoned her parental rights, her claim has standing. The room tilted. Rachel looked at Walsh, a slight smile on her face. She thought she'd won. My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't breathe. I looked at Ethan beside me, desperate for something. Anything. His face was blank. Unreadable. I leaned close, whispered, "She's lying. We have to stop her." He turned his head slightly. Whispered back, "Let her talk." What? We were losing. And he wanted Rachel to keep talking? Judge Harrison looked at Ethan. "Young man, do you wish to speak?" A long pause. Ethan sat perfectly still. Then he stood. "Yes, Your Honor. I have evidence." My heart stopped. "What evidence?" "I'd given Linda everything." "Approach," Judge Harrison said. Ethan picked up a bag I hadn't noticed him carrying. Walked to the witness stand, calm, steady, like he'd done this 100 times. He pulled out a laptop. "May I connect this to the display, Your Honor?" Judge Harrison looked surprised. "What are you presenting?" "Verification of document authenticity and timeline evidence." He spoke clearly, directly. "I built a system that proves whether documents are real or forged." Walsh stood immediately. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We weren't informed of this evidence." "Your client presented fraudulent documents 6 weeks ago," Ethan said, looking directly at Walsh. "I'm presenting analysis of those documents now." Judge Harrison studied Ethan. "Proceed. But this better be relevant." Ethan connected his laptop. The courtroom display lit up. He pulled up Rachel's custody documents first. "These documents claim to be from 2011 through 2020, Ethan said. "But the digital metadata shows they were created 6 weeks ago, right after the news story about my sale aired." He clicked through screens. Creation dates. File properties. Editing history. All timestamped. All recent. Walsh objected. "Metadata can be manipulated." "Not in this case," Ethan said calmly. "The signature verification shows additional discrepancies." He pulled up my copy of his birth certificate, Rachel's signature from 2005. Then he ran a program that analyzed the signatures on the custody documents. Numbers. Comparisons. Statistical analysis. The pressure patterns don't match. The letter formation is inconsistent. The spacing and slant are different. These signatures were forged. Judge Harrison leaned forward. "How do you know this?" "I built a verification system. It analyzes documents for authenticity. It's what I sold last month." "You're 16. The judge said. "Yes." She blinked. "Continue." Ethan pulled up a new screen. A timeline. "These are my records. I've been documenting my life since I was 9 years old. Spreadsheets. Scanned documents. Photographs. All timestamped. All verified. Mrs. Cooper claims she visited in December 2013. Here's my grandmother's calendar from that month showing our schedule. Here are photos from that week with timestamps. Here's my therapy session notes from December 9th. Therapist confirmed. No mother present. Here's the school attendance record showing I was present every day that month." He clicked through more screens. December 2013. Rachel wasn't there. Mrs. Cooper claims she sent money orders. Here are 7 years of my grandmother's complete bank records. No deposits from Rachel Cooper. Not $1. Bank statements appeared on screen. Every transaction highlighted. Mrs. Cooper claims she called regularly. Here are phone company records from 2010 to present. 0 calls from her number after December 24, 2010. Years of phone records. Rachel's number nowhere. April 2015. She claims she sent $500 for therapy. Here's the bank statement showing no such deposit. Here's my grandmother's calendar showing she paid out of pocket. Here's the receipt. Every single claim Rachel had made, Ethan demolished with proof. Walsh stood again. "Your Honor, this evidence wasn't disclosed in discovery." "Because you presented fraudulent documents 6 weeks ago," Ethan said. "I built the verification system to analyze them." "That's impossible." Walsh cried. "You couldn't build something like this in 6 weeks." "I didn't," Ethan said. "I've been building it for 7 years. I just finished analyzing these specific documents 6 weeks ago." Judge Harrison stared at him. "You've been documenting your life for 7 years?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Every calendar entry my grandmother made, every receipt she kept, every therapy session, every school meeting, every bank transaction. Everything is timestamped, cross-referenced, and verified. The system makes it impossible to alter retroactively." He pulled up more screens, showing how it worked. So when Mrs. Cooper says she visited monthly, sent money, called regularly, I can prove she didn't. Because I have proof of what actually happened. What was real? The courtroom was silent. Judge Harrison looked at Rachel. Mrs. Cooper, can you explain these discrepancies? Rachel's face had gone pale. She looked at Walsh. The metadata could be wrong, she stammered. The dates might be. I did visit. I did send money. When exactly? The judge asked. December 2013. I remember. Do you have proof? Receipts? Photos? Rachel was falling apart. I didn't keep records. I was there. I know I was there. But you have detailed financial records of money orders sent? Yes, those show. Mrs. Cooper, Judge Harrison said, her voice cold. Did you or did you not falsify custody documents? No, my lawyer said. Walsh looked sick. Judge Harrison turned to Ethan. This verification system, it's legitimate. Yes, Your Honor. I sold it last month to Anderson Security for $3.2 million. They verified its accuracy before purchase. The judge's eyebrows rose. Then she looked at the evidence again. At the timeline. At the proof that Rachel had been gone for 11 years. I've seen enough, she said. She ruled from the bench. No recess. No deliberation. Rachel Cooper, I find your testimony not credible and your documentation fraudulent. Full custody and guardianship is awarded to Vivian Cooper. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of perjury and fraud. Rachel made a sound like choking. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel struck. It was over. Outside the courthouse, standing in the afternoon sun, it finally hit me. You knew, I said, my voice thick with emotion. You've been protecting us all along. Ethan nodded once. Didn't smile. Just nodded. 6 months later, things looked different. Ethan couldn't work in data security anymore because of the non-compete clause from selling his system. So he started a new company, software testing and quality assurance. I'm hiring people like me, he said over breakfast one morning. Autistic people. We see patterns others miss. His first hire was Stephen. I recognized the name immediately. Stephen had been my student 20 years ago. I'd fought the school board for him in 4th grade. They said he'd never hold a job. Now he was Ethan's lead quality tester. Then Marcus. Then Lily. More of my former students. Kids people had given up on. I visited Ethan's office one afternoon. Small space. 6 desks. Everyone wearing headphones. Quiet. Focused. Stephen saw me, took off his headphones. Mrs. Cooper, he said, his voice thick. You told the principal I wasn't broken. Just different. He swallowed. Ethan says the same thing. I couldn't speak. Just nodded. Rachel got 2 years probation and 500 hours of community service at an autism resource center. 3 months into her sentence, I was dropping off donated supplies and saw her. On the floor, reading to nonverbal children. She looked up, saw me. We both froze. She looked exhausted, humbled. Nothing like the woman who'd shown up with a lawyer. The center director told me, not knowing who I was, that volunteer comes in extra hours. Says she's learning what she should have learned years ago. I didn't speak to Rachel. Just watched for a moment, then left. Some things don't need words. On a Tuesday evening a few weeks later, I brought dinner to Ethan's apartment like I always did. His yellow cup sat on the counter, chipped, but still his favorite. We ate at his small table, quiet, comfortable. I started clearing plates. Ethan put his phone down. Vivian. I turned around. He was looking at his hands. I know what you gave up for me. I sat back down, waited. Your friends stopped calling. You stopped going places. I heard you on the phone once, turning down a trip because you couldn't leave me. Ethan, you could have sent me away like she did. School suggested it. You didn't. My throat was tight. You're my grandson. I know. He looked up at me. But you chose it every day. Even when I couldn't say thank you. Silence. Just the hum of his refrigerator. It mattered, he said quietly. I reached across the table, put my hand near his, not touching, but close. You were worth every single day, I said. He nodded once. I know that now. We sat there a moment longer. Then I got up, finished the dishes while he opened his laptop. Same routine. Same comfortable silence. But something important had been said. I kissed the top of his head on my way out. He didn't flinch. See you Tuesday, I said. Tuesday, he confirmed. I drove home through streets I'd driven 1,000 times before. Same routes, same turns. The way Ethan liked things. The way I'd learned to like things, too. My phone buzzed at a red light. A text from Ethan. Thank you. Just those 2 words. I smiled the whole way home. So, that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. If you were in my shoes, could you forgive your own daughter for abandoning your grandson? Thanks for watching. Take care. Good luck.